Hello and welcome to another very quick PlayBASIC live video. You might be able to hear it's pouring rain outside, and as per usual we have no internet yet again. Don't you love that? Gotta love that. So I wanted to talk about actually a kind of structuring thing of how inner loops can be structured in games, particularly when we want to have different types of scenery. So what I thought I would do is show you. I'm looking at the Yes and Other Asteroids clone. You can get the code for it. It's probably in your example pack right now. I want to scroll down and take a look at the main loop. This is the kind of the do loop in which the whole game runs from. So game main loop. So when we enter this part here, we've got past the loading media type stuff up here somewhere. Oh, sorry, this game doesn't really have any media. That's right. I should have looked at this before I started talking about it. So anyway, before we enter the actual main do loop here, we're spawning the player, generating a bunch of asteroids for a random effect, creating the temp surface that we're drawing all the effects to, and then entering a loop. And there's one thing you notice about this loop, if I sort of highlight the whole thing, is that it's hard-coded to do everything in a certain order. And pretty much most programs you see people write are based on the same idea. We draw a backdrop, or we draw our sprites, and then we draw the scores, all those kind of things. And what you could do is split them up and have them separate from that sort of prison. Just to have a quick sort of revise of what this code here is actually doing. We've got a function 1. We're testing the F1 key. If it's pressed, we spawn a new player. We won't look at the function for that, but if the enter key is pressed, we generate another random, well, another 11 items, asteroids, to put them in the main scene. We've got a draw mode here set to, I think that's actually Alpha Edition. Don't quote me on that. So 1 plus 64, so we've got a draw mode and a render effect added together, which is how it should be. You could just say that's 65, by the way, but really it's just to fit in with how that works. How dare that drop off the screen like that? Yeah, so we're doing Alpha Edition, so pretty much everything that's drawn is being added to what's already on screen with each RGB. So the scene is, we're drawing our asteroids first, then drawing the bullets first, updating the player logic, drawing out particles, drawing edges, which I have no idea what that is now, and then doing a post-processing effect to the screen to give it this kind of debris look. If you haven't seen the game running, go and have a look at it. I can't really capture this stuff on this machine, it's too slow. Now, let's say we're talking about a platform game though. Asteroids, you don't really need to do this in Asteroids. What I want to get to anyway. What else have we got in here that we might have a look at? I don't think it's on this machine. Let's go and look at the Theseus 13 Forest Blast. Yeah, this is a much bigger example, a lot more code, and dealing with a lot of different things. I want to find the main loop, which apparently is just this. This is our main loop for the whole game. I've got a global there of some watercolor. Don't know what that is. Don't ask me, I haven't got no idea. So this is the intro section, I would say. Oh, sorry. This is the game loops. Yeah, of course. We've got a title screen function. And we've got a subroutine here called play game. It's probably another loop, a special loop, I would say. Yeah, it is. So when the game is actually actively being played, got some variables here with setting. I've got a structure with a state and a game state constant. This must be declared somewhere else. I have no idea where that is. Up in here, I would say. Game state, title screen, close title screen. These are all the possible things that the game can actually be doing. So we're quitting, gaming over, level up, the player died, it's in play or whatever. Refresh image score. Don't know what that does. Won't bother with look at. We've got a level loading. In this particular example, we've got a kind of an ASCII based format for how the levels are constructed. This should be in your example pack too, so yeah, load up, have a look at it some other time. Loading up media, so all the media requests are all defined inside this level, this text format, and then they're actually loaded after that. So it just kind of fills up an array full of files that you need to load, then it calls the load routine to pull them off disk. Let's get through this a bit faster. So we've got down to this is our central loop of the game, and it's a time-based loop. So we've got we're updating the game clock. We're checking if there is game clock is frames passed less than 30. In other words, if there are too many frames have passed, we don't want to update any on-screen display. We want to sort of pass over that time. This is where I want to get to. Sorry, got a redraw game loop. Did I? Oh, sorry, wrong one. Alright, we finally got to the bit of code that draws the whole scene, and you can see that it has a very particular layout. Drawing a scaled image. I think it's drawing the backdrop. Okay, backdrop is scrolling. We're drawing a floor next. Then we're drawing some environment, drawing the player in the foreground, and there's a kind of a water effect, a ripple effect that runs over the whole frame of this game. So it's quite complicated and possibly very hard to change. If you wanted to have a different scene, you would really need a whole new inner loop. So you'd have like a redraw game level 2 or something for level if the backdrop was different. That's not really all that useful. What I want to look at is, I'm not going to write it for you, I just want to show you a kind of a really basic idea. What if you did this? Most inner loops look like this. You've got a sync, a clear screen, to whatever your background color is going to be, I don't know. You might have a function call to draw backdrop, and that renders your backdrop, whatever it happens to be, draw sprites or something. Let's say that's your game most of the time. Of course, these would be you have a function over here that would actually do the drawing aspect. Draw sprites. Since this is all hypothetical, I'm not going to bother trying to write some code that actually runs. I want to get to the raw concept. Now, if I want to have this CLS here, or this backdrop, or the sprite processing done in a different way, then I'm going to have some kind of comparison here. If let's say in level 5, we don't want to draw the backdrop. If let's say it's a current variable called current level. If it equals our level 5 constant or whatever, then don't draw. So current level is equal to any level but level 5, then do the CLS. So on level 5 it wouldn't do the CLS. Incredibly problematic, and this requires the programmer write every special case into the game. What we could do is we could have a loop like this. We could have a loop well, we could have our scene processed as a series of we'll call them events. So I might have a function down here, CLS, or we might change the names up. Event CLS. Here, call this one here event. I think what we probably should do there is actually have an event that calls sync as well. So we could actually have in our sync process, our custom sync process, we could do things like draw debug information over our game or those kind of. There's some examples in PB that kind of do that sort of thing. So let's say we don't have any custom code in our inner loop. What you could do is you could actually have something like this, which is kind of a crude idea, but thinking off the top of my head, we could have for loop equals 0 to, I don't know, let's say 255. We'll have 255 available slots in our stack. And select. We'll have some sort of dim event stack 255. Just make it nice and sort of obvious what's going on. Now, if event stack, let's say our CLS has a numeric value of, I don't know, who cares? Let's say it's it's event, or let's say it's 100. Then we call the event function. We can do this another way. It's actually more convenient, but bear with me. We might say event 200 is what? I'll say event 255, or event 1000 highest priority is sync. So that's like 200, and that's just, the values don't matter as long as they're all unique. We'll say that one there is event when 200. We would be calling the draw backdrop, and when we get here we would call draw sprites on event when event is 500. Now it looks pretty dumb, doesn't it? What we've done is we've given the user, we're giving yourself a way of setting up the way this central loop executes. So let's say we have, on the event stack, we have at position 1, we put 100, And 100 is going to call the CLS. So that's actually our CLS. At 2, we call our backdrop. And whoops, at 3 we do 500. Sorry, that's going to be backdrop. Draw backdrop. Draw sprites. What was the last one? 4 is sync. That was 1,000, wasn't it? Called sync. So we've probably over-engineered this for our super simple example, but as your game gets bigger, right, as you get more unique types of backdrops, more unique layouts for sprites, or different control systems, or different completely different draw loops entirely, you don't want to have 50 different types of draw loops. You want to have a system that lets the same code, basic code, run all the time without you having to write heaps of extra custom inner loops to draw each particular inner scene, because that's going to end up with, well, you're going to end up making mistakes. That's just the way it's going to be. If we fill this in, sorry, I'll put a sync call in there, just so we actually, let's say our backdrop here, I'll draw, I don't know, a circle or something. No, I'll draw a shade box. I don't know, 100, 100 to 700 at, what is it, 500, so it won't be the full screen, and these are the colors. I'll just make some random colors up. Got a very dark black in the top left hand corner, then we'll have like a purple on the top right hand corner, and then we'll go to green, which will be really ugly, and something else is really ugly. I don't know, kind of yellowy bluey color. So that's our emulated background. Our sprites, you know, I'll just draw 10 random circles or something. I just want to get something on screen so you can actually see what the hell I'm talking about. Circle X, Y, 32, fill them. I'll just use the randomize. I'll set the seed each loop, and then so we can grab a random position, 800. That's on the x-axis, and a random y on the y-axis, and I'll grab the color. Random RGB, and we use the colored circle, so we end up putting the color at the end. Okay, let's see if we get this thing to run. Right, we do actually have our scene drawn in order. So we know it's in order because the CLS has been done first, our shade box has been drawn next, and our sprites have been drawn at the end there. I'll just bump the speed down a bit. I don't want it to kill the capture. I'll have some sort of global scroll offset or something. Scroll X. Make it a static variable. A bit of magic here. I apologise if you don't follow what's happening there. So this will make the sprite scene scroll to the left, and it will wrap around if we're lucky. Oh, you can't do that in assignments. So you can do the declaration, but you can't do the shortcut here. It's not happy with that. The modulus. Scroll X. Yeah, I've got the. I was going to make that change and then didn't. As you do. I think we're off the frame buffer. That's a bit silly. Alright, so you can see what I'm talking about though. I've got our sprite scene, CLS happening. I should be really doing mod scroll X -1 800. Yeah. The point I'm trying to get to is that if we have some sort of stack like this and we call our items in our stack based on whatever way we put them here, if you wanted to change when something was present within the scene, you don't need to have special if cases around things. You can just comment it out. We can get rid of the shade box backdrop by just commenting it out. And you can do this while the thing is running. Okay. So the point I'm trying to get to, which I hope I've sort of made, it's hard to tell where these things are going to get through, but what I'm trying to get to is that if you have this event stack or your own version of it, I'm really hoping that you'll come up with your own version of it, not something I just threw together here on screen, where you can actually lay out how the scene is drawn, and you can do this. You can have, if you want to have, a custom version, if level equals 1 or something, that's how it's done. What I would probably do is I would probably have this table be generated and loaded in externally, so the people doing the artwork for your game or my game, if it was me running a game, can then control how the scene is drawn. And it means I don't have to sit there and write custom code every time they want to change. So when putting a new level together, I don't have to be hands-on all the time. Alright, so we'll just go over this one more time. I know I'm sort of repeating myself. The whole point here is we don't want to have our inner loop hard-coded like this. I'll make a little cut and paste version of this again. Let's just grab those functions. So let's just say we had these functions here like this. We might have a loop like this, do loop, and that could be our, if level 1. The trouble with that is that when the game is compiled, now it's built into your game, and that order can't be modified. You would need to have logic inside these functions that selectively chooses when it renders, when it does this thing or when it doesn't, and that's awkward and it's very problematic. If we split this out and have a kind of render stack or an event stack, whatever you want to call it, we can definitely separate the two things from each other. They work exactly the same, and your inner loop here is the cost of running that is nothing. You know, just seriously nothing. You've got you're looping, in this case, looping through all 255 spaces in here, but you wouldn't actually do that in production code. You would ask the array how big it is, and sort of. But it also means you can change this event stack here while the game's running. Let's add something different. No, I know this is a crappy example, but let's do another one. We'll have draw backdrop 2. Very creative. Yep. Oh, sorry, we'll just draw a circle. It's not nice and quick. We can get in and out of this thing without. Hopefully, the point has been made. Where are we going to draw this thing? I don't know. We'll draw it at 0, 0, and we'll draw it at. We'll make it 100 pixels in size, and we will draw it. I'll give it some weird color again. That's good enough. Now, we need to add something here. So a new function is called 2. This might be right. So we should just get our standard scene. It's a shame that Windows 10 disk access is so slow. Oh well. Right, standard scene. We've got no extra circles being drawn. What you could do, let's say this is at position, so we've got some free space between these events. Keep hitting the caps lock key on this keyboard. It's starting to drive me nuts. You know, if function there we go again. If function key 1, we'll say event, we'll call it 25, and we'll tell it that you want this thing here to be drawn. If it's not, then don't do that thing. Pretty terrible example. Just null it out. So when I hit the F1 key, we're inserting that into the frame. F1, get our circle. And notice how it's in scene here. Now, I'm just drawing a primitive there, but you could have anything in there. Don't be confused by the draw order issues like that using a camera solves. This is for actually dealing with your logic as well. So you could have code that does draw star fields, or it does, you know, some background effect, or who knows, really, maybe a water effect where you've got to pre-process a part of the screen, draw it to an image, and then replace it back to the scene later. Just I hope that makes sense. Anyway, but I better leave this there. It's getting pretty scattered. I'll put the code up on the forum here with the video. You know, hopefully someone out there is brave enough to try and come up with a solution. I know there are a couple of examples, similar examples to this, that are actually on the boards already, but probably people don't really understand what they're all about. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.